Thanks for clicking on the video. My name's Tom Allsopp, and today I'm going to show you why most of you watching this should be serving without jumping, just staying on the ground. I'm going to show you the benefits of this and how to execute it. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or a pro tennis player. If you take the jump out of the service motion, it allows you to make better adjustments. It's a lot easier to work on stuff, especially if we're talking about the top half of the body, whether that's your chest, your shoulder, the throwing motion, the pronation, whatever it is, it's going to be a lot easier to work on that without jumping. And you can see Nadal doing this. He's working on some part of the arm motion, that's what it looks like anyway, and he's not jumping. And it's going to be easier for him to control whatever that adjustment is he's trying to make. He's also starting here, but we'll save that for another day. But breaking down the serve, taking certain elements out of it like the jump, is going to make it far easier to make these adjustments. So what we're looking to do is make sure that we have our kinetic chain working, we have the sequence working in the right order and at the right time, which means that we have to synchronize the bottom half of the body with the top half of the body. So our energy is coming through the legs and into the top half. So everything is moving at the right time. There's not a separation, there's not a delay from the legs to the arm. And most people struggle with this. And I really mean most players are actually on the way down as they're striking the tennis ball. I really suggest checking your serve out on camera and seeing if this is something you do. Because as I said, most players, maybe 90% of players, they jump and then they're coming back down as they're striking the tennis ball. Now, if you're someone who does this, what's interesting is when you take the jump out of it and you stay on the floor, you'll still make the same error. You'll still go up with the legs too early and there'll be a delay before you strike the tennis ball. You'll probably come up and then be dropping back down as you strike it. So you need to fix it staying on the ground rather than fixing it with a jump. So to develop your kinetic chain on the serve, it's often best to just treat it like a throwing motion. When we're throwing, we load the back leg, and this is obviously the side where we're throwing from. As a right-handed player, I'm using the right side of my body, all of it here. There's nothing going on with the left side. And then I'm moving to the left at the right time to rotate and to throw. So this kind of coordination is what we need on the serve. We're going to start on the back leg, we're going to move to the front leg and just throw. Now you may have noticed that the pro tennis players, let's take Roger Federer for an example, he doesn't look like he's throwing a ball over the net. Whereas if I'm doing my demonstration, I can throw like this and then I can hit a serve like this. And that looks pretty similar. Now, we're not trying to help Roger Federer, that would be nice, but he doesn't really need that much help with his kinetic chain on the serve. But if you're struggling, take it back to a throwing motion because it's going to help you as you develop more of a service technique. It's still going to be the same sequence required. There's just going to be a few minor adjustments. So for example, instead of throwing forwards with the elbow here, we're going to be going upwards. But the sequence is still the same. It's still right foot, left foot, shoulder rotation, elbow leading the way. This is going to cause the racket drop, by the way, getting this elbow leading the way here. But then from here, because we're going up, we're going to want to move this racket head a little bit quicker and snap it down. So we have to stop the arm a little bit earlier and snap the racket as opposed to bringing it through forwards and everything going this way. That's not bad when you're starting out, but as you get a little bit better, we're going to be tilting up, throwing the elbow up and snapping it down a little bit. Now, if you watch some of the pros warming up, they won't jump. They're just getting warmed up. They're trying to get a coordinated, synchronized feeling on their serve, and they don't need to jump for the first few. However, The way that someone like Federer and Sampras will do this is not technically correct. It's not a problem to them because they're just warming up, and when they start serving in the match, they're going to do everything very well. But what they do is they swing their right leg around, which feels pretty good. But this is something that you shouldn't do. If you're going to serve for real, serving on the ground, not just warming up your body, if you actually want to start hitting good serves standing on the ground without jumping, what I want you to do is feel like this back leg stays where it is. When you watch the best servers in the world serve for real, not just warming up, you'll see that when they land, this back leg kicks back a lot. Now that's going to give them a lot of power because their top half is rotating one way and their lower half is going the other way. Again, baseball pitchers do the same thing. Quarterbacks, American football, they'll do the same thing. This back foot will stay here. What we don't want is it to swing around because we're not creating that opposite movement where the lower half is going one way and the upper half is going the other way. That's going to create torque. If everything just moves together as one speed, one pace, everything's connected, you're not going to get much acceleration. So if you're someone who lands like this and isn't able to get this leg kicking back, and you see all the pros do it and you think, how can I do it? Well, stay on the ground, because this happens when you're on the way down, right? That's one huge, that's probably the cause of your problems. So staying on the ground, as I said earlier, will help you to fix the timing of going up and hitting it. But also getting used to your body moving in opposite directions, keeping this back foot on the floor, trains you to do this move where this leg goes back. Because you're very close now doing this to doing this, right? So it's a great step towards getting that professional finish. Now, I don't recommend many people do this, just day to day. It's not something I actually ask players to try. But if you want to finish the serve like this and then pick this leg up going backwards, this also works out rather nice. It's just kind of difficult to execute. It's a little bit awkward for most people to try and do that. But certainly feel like as you rotate your shoulders that this wants to go backwards as opposed to spinning forwards. Personally, I like people to just try and keep this back foot on the floor. But again, it's got to be your toes on the floor here. It can't be your whole foot on the ground because you're not going to be able to rotate. So keep your back foot on the floor, but finish like this. Now it's going to be difficult for most people to hold that position. So if you do this and your body weight goes forwards, that's perfectly fine. It's just not happening at the same time. There's enough delay to make that technically sound if you go like this. So just make sure you strike the ball with this back foot on the floor, and then as you follow through, your body weight can come forwards. That's perfectly fine and probably a little bit more natural. Now, as a tennis nerd, I was looking at a lot of old footage of players like Rod Laver, seeing how they used to serve, because I was aware that they stay on the ground and kind of aware that they sometimes swung this leg around. Now, partly that was to get, well, maybe not partly, a big reason was to get to the net as quickly as possible. So they can essentially just run through that serve, something like this, and just keep it moving. Now, one thing that Rod Laver used to do, because, I'm saying that this is going to give you more power, but if Rod Laver is swinging this leg around, then, if it's good enough for Rod Laver, maybe it's good enough for everyone. But one thing he was doing that's different than a lot of players do is instead of swinging this leg around like this, kind of stiff and straight, he was picking his leg up as he moved his leg around. And this move is actually a good power move, maybe not the best, but it allows you to crunch this side of the body. So this is a stronger move than this, swinging it around. And I've asked a a guy on my, who signed up to my video analysis who, he was on his way down. We kind of gave him some tips to try and stay on the floor and work out that time and keep this back foot on the floor, all that kind of stuff. A couple of unique things for him, not just the stuff I've mentioned in this video. But he was really struggling to keep this back foot on the floor, and it used to swing, always wanted to swing around. And I said, well, if it swings around, just see if you can pick it up and actually engage the muscles on this side of the body. It's actually really, really worked for him. I do feel like there's a little bit of power in that move. It's obviously not for everyone, but that's the beauty, in my opinion, of tennis coaching, is that I'm working with people, not just on people saying, hey, this is the right way to serve. Everyone's a little bit different. Everyone feels comfortable doing certain things. And hey, if this is good enough for Rod Laver, maybe it's good enough for you. But I would recommend keeping this back foot back and trying to do that first. If it's an absolute pain, serve like Rocket Rod.